we'll go ahead and start here.
All right, jump right in. I want to interview you, but okay, next time.
You can do the same thing. So happy. It's good to pull Bree out of Bushwick and Williamsburg. She tried to. She's like, "What is this? What is this area?" Basically like that.
But I actually really love it.
Yeah. No, you should come down more.
It's
Fort Greene. We're in my apartment, just so y'all know. But yeah, as soon as I started doing this, Bree kind of came to mind because Bree's story is crazy. Like you're crazy. I mean, and you don't really talk about it much because I think you're just kind of like it's like norm for you now.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, but Bree now is a up and coming artist. She is now you've toured Scandinavia. You're about to.
Yeah, about to in April.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what? And then but let's go because I don't do this with a lot of people. But let's go to the beginning. When the very beginning.
Where it all began.
Florida. You want to be an actress.
Yes. Yes.
So you're like.
Yeah. I guess it did start in Florida, didn't it? The journey. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I studied acting at Florida School of the Arts. Mm-hmm. I was first college out of high school, and that's where I saw my first play. Like I was like completely introduced to the arts at 18 years old, like more or less. I did some singing and stuff, but but not seriously, right? Like you're like I can kind of sing. But I didn't grow up, I guess, with no offense to my parents, but they weren't like artists or anything, so I wasn't exposed to it. So I like went into it hard. I was like, whoa, this is amazing, and I got into theater and just learning and reading books about just the history of theater was like really fascinating to me.
So you studied it. So like you were reading and all that and
and like Greek theater and like I guess your average, coming of age like college experience, but at an art school. So liberal arts, yeah. And then
this is my favorite part. Yeah.
Wait, which part?
I'm thinking New Orleans. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, have you ever documented this? No. So that's the thing. No one's asked you.
Yeah.
And this story that I'm gonna let her get to in a second, but it says a lot because I'm a type of person you just kind of go with the flow, and I think that's Bree's kind of thing is that breezy, she just kind of breezy, the breezy way. Yeah. But yeah, so you're in New Orleans.
Yeah.
You're signed on to USC, right?
Yeah, USC
in California.
Yep, I was gonna get my bachelor. Oh my gosh, I'm like already blanking.
No, it's
the BFA. Yeah, Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Yeah.
Because I had just finished 2 years with getting my AS in acting, and I had plans to move to LA and
it was all ready to go.
All ready to go.
Have you gotten like housing there already?
No, that was yet to be figured out. But yeah, I was like really excited because I've flown out there to do the audition and everything, and then I went. My friend was going to New Orleans for the weekend. We had already graduated. Right. It was kind of like the summer. Everyone was getting ready to do their different thing, and I always wanted to go to New Orleans, and I'd jumped in the car with them, and
from Florida, right?
We drove from Florida, and then my whole life changed. It all took a turn.
Go ahead, not turn. It just changed.
Basically, I fell in love with the city. She is a mistress. That one. She either spits you out or cradles you, and I had never seen anything like that before. Just the people singing on the streets, the blues music, the jazz, the whole spirit of that city kind of just overtook me.
And what year was this? This was it wasn't pre-Katrina.
It was actually after Katrina.
It was after Katrina.
A couple of years. So it was getting like a little rebuild, but there was just such a community of musicians that like I fell in love with one of them. Yeah. But also I should preface
you gotta tell that story. You gotta tell that story.
Oh yeah.
Like, that's it, yeah.
I'm walking down, Frenchman Street, and there's this kind of Woody Guthrie, I would say. Woody Guthrie type on the street, playing guitar, just singing songs, and as I passed him, he said, "No man will ever love you like I will." And I fell for it. I fell for that shit.
Yeah.
So
he sung and he was.
Yeah, so we like hung out that night and played music together, and the weekend came to the end, and I won't say it was all him, but my friend went to say, okay, we're meeting here, we're gonna go back And I said, Kira, I'm not going back.
You never went back, right? And you
back.
Just USC was out the window now. You just
Yep.
Did you communicate with him? Like, did you tell? No.
Well, sorry, USC.
She just didn't show up. Yeah.
It's okay. I'm sure they had plenty of other people to take money from.
Right, and at that point, you hadn't really sung seriously even then, right? And so did he kind of inspire you to get to singing, or no? You were just kind of in the world.
I had a guitar since I was 16, and I had always been obsessed with music, but I didn't start writing my own songs or really tapping into a voice that I think that I have now is because I was singing loudly. I could sing as loud as I wanted to on the street. Like I'll never forget one of the days I was busking. One person slipped me a $20 bill in my guitar case, and another woman upstairs where she was living said, "Will you shut that racket?" So, it was like a beautiful place to just explore vocally and like annoy people
risks
take risks.
And this guy was like homeless, right?
Yeah.
He was.
Well, the whole homeless thing is kind of like there's a lot of people traveling and sleeping on people's couches because it was I guess I could equal it to like, I'm sure it's something similar of the 60s when everyone was just going to San Francisco and like going up and down the coast and that movement, and there really was that spirit of, and I'm sure it's still living. I'm not doing it much anymore, after my freight trains. We didn't tell that story.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was a beautiful time in my life. And I will say that, like, should we talk about the dad thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, no, absolutely.
Okay, before this big, crazy decision happened where I abandoned all my stuff and stayed in New Orleans for the summer, my dad had passed away that year, and so I look back at that time and I think, like, okay, I clearly was going through some major grief. And the more I read about grief after I had processed everything, it was just like textbook where like you abandon things that were associated with that life. And that's what I did. So I moved to a different city. I got a new boyfriend. I got a new like lifestyle.
Kind of shed everything.
Yeah. And then even went further when I jumped in the car with him and his friends and went to Vermont.
And is that where the trains were? Because you were happy, or no?
No, freight trains were when I was like 8. Before I went to New Orleans.
So back it up. You might as you mentioned
gosh.
it. Yeah. So freight train.
I'm exhausting, aren't I?
No, but because it's all part. Because in your music, this is what everything's behind it. Because I'm
traveling.
Yeah. I mean, I think the worst thing happening to artists is when they kind of become out of touch with the reality, and you kind of did all the grit.
Yeah. I mean, I look back and I'm like, wow, I'm glad I experienced that then, because now it seems so like out of touch with me.
So
in
freight
a good
trains.
way. So freight trains. So when I was 18, my first love, it always involves a lover. I'm a lover.
They're a guider.
Oh, very much a guider. My first love, he rode freight trains, and there was, again, this is kind of mixing with that New Orleans community. There's a lot of people that are traveling this way, and it's a beautiful way to see the country. Yes, it's illegal and dangerous. Don't do it.
You can get a ticket, right?
You get more than a ticket.
Yeah.
There's people who've been like killed, unfortunately. I know, it's really sad.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
This is dedicated to all the lost lives in the freight line.
It's very, very dangerous because some conductors are like, that's their baby, and you better not get caught on that.
What's their living? I mean, that stuff,
Yeah, and so there's a group of people in St. Augustine that were...
Florida.
St. Augustine, Florida. Yeah. Yep, that's where it's kind of near Florida School of the Arts, and I was living there. And one day we were like, I want to do this. And he introduced me to like a lot of old country, Hank Williams Sr., and good old blues and jazz like Bessie Smith. So I was starting to get into that world of just music I had never heard before, and
living the life.
Yeah,
that's like living the because you are that's the thing about it. You are really a throwback. And if you ever want to piss Brie off, you tell her how to play music. That's number one. Like she'll turn. She'll give you like the evil eye.
I'm learning. No.
You learn how to just smile and be like, okay,
yeah. But sometimes my bandmates say things and I'm like, I got to do it my way.
The Brie
very
way.
Stubborn.
I'm the front man here.
Yeah.
Okay. So you experienced that, and then Vermont. So then Vermont was a whole lifestyle.
that blew me away, because also I had only grown up even though I was born in Minnesota, I had grown up in Florida, and I had been to like Georgia and the Carolinas and stuff, but I had no idea what New England was even about. I didn't understand. When I think we drove all night. I was delirious, and I got out of the car when we arrived, and I saw Lake Champlain and the mountains, and I was just like, where am I? It looked like another planet.
Yeah. And it's like Planet of the Apes or something.
Yeah. I was like, what did I do? How did I get here?
You're like out of this smog of love, and then you're like,
very far from the Florida cottage, the warm southern way. Yeah. And that ended up being like one of the darkest years of my life. But in hindsight, I had the best art and epiphanies coming out of it, just because I was in this new place, all new people, and socially just different, than what I was used to, because the South is so different from the Northeast. But overall, I mean, that's what kind of brought me to New York, which is...
You broke up with the boyfriend, right?
Yeah, we broke up.
Yeah.
It was a breakup. I had a breakup.
Awful. Yeah.
They're cool now. But...
Yeah. Shout out.
Yeah.
If you hear
I need
this.
to call him back, actually.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting the real exclusive, yeah. Rolling Stone isn't getting this version. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
So then, eventually it got pretty dark, to the point where I was like, wait, hold on a second. Where am I? Who am I? What happened to acting? Like, I'm just writing songs, and I'm working in a restaurant. And
in Vermont.
In Vermont,
okay.
Yeah. And so eventually I was like, okay, I think, I had a little scare. We're getting deep here.
Let's do it.
Okay.
That's it.
So I had, on New Year's Eve, it was one of the worst nights for me, and I ended up going to the doctor the next day, because I was just like, I can't keep in this paradigm. It was too heavy, too much depression. And then they prescribed me antidepressants, and I remember taking them like for 2 days, and I was slowly getting my gears back going, and I was going to audition for a couple schools to get back into acting. And I went to go do my monologue, and it was just nothing.
It was flat.
Just nothing. And so I ran to the bathroom, and I flushed them down the toilet. I said, no more. I'm getting out of this. And that's what brought me to my audition at Circle in the Square Theater in New York City.
And Circle, like I've met a few people in the Circle in the Square, including my cousin, and they always say there's a t-shirt, it's like, if you know someone from Circle in the Square, there's somebody crying. Like, like it is.
It's heavy shit.
Because it's a psychological experience, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of,
there is an amazing acting coach there who changed my life, Alan Langdon. He was actually Philip Seymour Hoffman's acting coach. But if you can see the movies and films and style of Philip Seymour Hoffman, you'll see what we were delving into. And really, and that year, I think it was my savior, because as much as people don't like to admit it, acting to me is therapy. Because it's all about understanding your own self, your own identity, or at least what I took from it, and how can you bring your experiences to those characters and those things that people write about, like abandonment and heartbreak and love and grief. So, and
sometimes easier to be vulnerable when you're being someone else, because there is that mask, but then you can deepen,
have you been watching the Jim Carrey?
I saw it. Yeah. It's so funny, on the last episode we talked about that.
Really?
Jim and Andy. Yeah. Did you see it all?
Oh yeah. And I'm like a huge dork and nerd out and watch all of his videos, because there's just like a beautiful truth and just really honesty that he puts out there about being confused and wanting things in life, and as an artist, but then ultimately realizing like none of that matters. Like we're all one, and our skin color, our name, where we come from, none of that actually matters.
It's all created by society.
Yeah, we are complete as we are, because you see all these people, especially in New York, like we're sheep, or running. It's like, just as long as you're enjoying the ride, that's what's important.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know all that. You got Power Now right over there.
There it is. That's my boy, Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah, that's your boy.
It's important. Yeah. Okay, so then Vermont, so you lead to New York, so you go through acting, and so
Yeah,
still no music at this point, because it kind of ebbs and flows, right? Acting and music,
the whole time I'd take my guitar. I had actually written a couple songs that ended up on my album in Vermont. Mm-hmm. So it's always there, mm-hmm. but I don't think I really realized it was what I wanted to do.
The calling was,
yeah. So, I got into that school and had the craziest, most intense first, imagine like never being to New York City and then plop, you're going to school 40 hours a week, right in Times Square, working on top of that. So it was good for me though. I felt so spent after a long, quiet, dark, mm-hmm. just mundane year in Vermont.
It was time to do the work, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that really got my energy up, and I remember just learning for the first time in my life it was okay to be angry at things. It was okay to like stick up for yourself, because I was such it's okay, I'm sorry, mm-hmm. So I was dealing with all these things and learned a ton. And that's when after that first year of Circle in the Square, I decided I wasn't going to complete the second year because...
I didn't know you dropped out. Yeah, so you just... Okay.
Yeah, because it was... Not to mention it was...
Expensive.
Yeah, it was expensive, and I felt like I was ready.
Okay. Yeah. You'd gotten what you needed from the experience. And
yeah. And it... And so I tried to work as an actor here in New York. I got off-Broadway play here and there, and did some short films, but I just kept finding myself going back to the warehouse and in my bedroom writing more and more songs, mm-hmm. and like getting really into that. And then, where are we now? You
get hit by a cab, right?
I got hit by a cab, which that's a crazy story.
Yeah, well, that was like a week. So, I met Bree.
You know my timeline better than I do.
Yeah, that's right. You got to prepare, right? You got to prepare mentally.
My brain is just like,
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm here for. I'm the guider. Yeah. But the way that I met Bree was, I'd mentioned before, because Will Surratt started interviewing me, kind of like you said you wanted to do. I started a real estate company with an Hasidic Jew. Shout out to Yoli. And Bree was my second hire. It was like 4 years ago now.
Oh, man.
There's a depth to Bree, but then also like you could tell it was like an important time in her life. She'd just been hit by a cab. Yeah, like it was like a week before, right?
Yeah.
And you were in the hospital, and thank God, the crazy thing is, thank God you put on a helmet, because you usually didn't.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Every morning I would stop at the coffee shop, and the manager, my friend Loretta, was like, girl, you need to wear a helmet, because I was biking into the city every day. And I was like, I know, I haven't gotten around to get one, I'm fine. And then one morning, I get in there, and she had a white helmet on the table, and she's like, guess whose that is? And I was like, oh, thank you. Dorky white helmet. Yeah. Ruined my hair. No, I'm just kidding.
That's what every girl
night. That night is when I got hit by a yellow cab.
Do you remember it, or?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, they came up from behind and just kind of swiped me. And I think God was fine, and the helmet saved my life. And
Did it break the helmet?
No. Okay. Well, it was definitely like cracked in pieces.
So you definitely hit it and everything, and then you talked about you just telling yourself, I don't need to press charges, right? That was so just could it be?
It was weird. I mean, I think back to that. I don't know. I just never did. I like completely. It's kind of like the USC thing. It was just like a moment is made up, and you just move forward, and you don't look back.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. And so then, so then you walk into our office, you interview, you're my second hire.
I see.
Yeah.
There's a young, handsome man from North Carolina, not South Carolina.
Southern, talk real fast, yeah.
And Hasidic Jewish guy. And I was like, what's this about?
What is going on here?
And I had already started working for another one,
right?
I
remember that. Yeah.
Which I hated.
Yeah.
And it was terrible.
Yeah.
So after I got off this interview, I was like, damn, they had like really cool energy, and I really hope I get that gig.
Yeah. It was unique. Yeah, for sure. But no, and I think the beauty of the job, and the situation that we created was that the job allowed you to do what you wanted to do, because you were making your own schedule and stuff. Yes. And I think it did somewhat help you flower. So you weren't
Mark my words. this job has completely changed my life.
Yeah.
Still to this day. Like, I can't believe how much I lucked out.
Yeah. And what the job is, just for people that don't know, is it's basically renting out properties for Hasidic owners, basically. And that it's a little different than working for like a real estate office. You're some middleman. You really kind of have a relationship with buildings, and you always remember your first building.
Yep.
And
you try to play roommate matchmaker.
Yeah, that's all fun. Yeah,
that's always a blast.
You meet a lot of people, and yeah, I mean it's pretty cool, and so through that, that kind of led you to making your first album, right? And how did you meet those people again? What was that process?
So I had been a big fan of this producer, Andrea Toshik, and he had done a lot of records that I loved. And one day, just out of pure, I don't know, chance, I decided to email him my demos. And I was just like, listen, this would be my dream to work with you. I know this is a long shot, but here you go. Let me know. And he emailed back. And he's like, all right, let's make a record.
How'd you get his email initially?
It was actually just the studio's contact. So I didn't know that it would like go to him. I was kind of just directing it like to Andrea, but and looking back, I'm like, oh my god, I had no idea what I was getting into. Like it astounds me that I was able to go from recording on my little tiny iPhone to a real studio with like a platinum record.
And if you'd had known that, you probably would have like seen it as so daunting, but it was kind of this like naiveness that allowed you to kind of go down the journey.
Even one of my friends who ended up playing keys on the record, we talked a little bit about this like years after. He said, yeah, I recently just did a record, and I was like trying to bring that energy of like you had, because you just were in the studio like, yep, that works, that sounds cool. When most people are so specific and critical, and I think it was a beautiful naivety, because it just turned out to be a really fun 2 weeks.
Because they go in it like a lot of times people in that position, they go into it already somewhat experienced, I think, and I think you're
so not
lack of experience. I would say you were just kind of going with the creative journey rather than like, I want to make this type of record, I want to be this type of artist, and you kind of let the talented producer do the work, right?
Yes.
And he's done work, and the most famous probably Alabama Shakes.
Right for the Riff Raff, the Ets. But yeah, definitely really well known in the whole Nashville area, and he's got an awesome little studio. It's all recorded to tape, so...
Yeah, and then the process of raising the money for the album was great.
Oh
right?
My god!
You raised money, you gave out, and then and the Hasidics helped fund it.
Hasidic Jewish guys funded my blues album. Yeah, like I need that printed.
Oh, it's country style. That's what they said. They had no idea.
Yeah, because I mean, I didn't have any money, and it was going to cost, even though everything was a great deal. It was to pay the musicians and the studio and blah blah blah. So I did it Indiegogo, and I ended up raising only half of my goal. And I was like, Jordan, I don't know what I'm gonna do. This is so terrifying. Like, the studio was booked, and I didn't have half of the money. And he's like, listen,
it's worth a shot.
Just give it a shot. Do a business proposal.
Yeah. You can always ask, I mean, that's the thing. Similar to how you dealt with the producer, you never hurts to ask, and that's it. So I remember like setting up the meeting, and you went in there, and
Jordan's my little what do you call it, guardian angel.
Yeah,
got me this job, helps produce this record. But so thank God they lended me the money. And I went down to Nashville, and we made the record.
And to Bree's credit, I'm not sure if we'll get back to it, but she paid every dime back through the work, and she rented a bunch of apartments and
paid it back pretty quickly, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you were on a journey, and you're like, you put your mind to it, and that's what you did. So you're not indebted to Hasidic Jews. They lent you the money.
They lent me.
You paid it back in full.
We're all indebted to them. I'm just kidding.
I got out. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Okay, so then you create the album, and that kind of starts the whole whirlwind, because now you've got a medium to kind of express. And you were happy with the album, right? You looking back,
Yeah, I love it. It's blew me away what we made, and just the fact that we all did it in 2 weeks, and it took me a while to actually release it. But once it was out into the world, I was blown away at the response. Like I didn't know it would go as far as China and all these places. And we had so many helping hands along the way. Like the management company that I ended up signing up with, they really had great publishing, and everything just kind of fell into place to the point where now there was a place for a little ripple in the music world.
There you go.
Small.
And you go by Breanna Barbara, right?
Yeah.
So if they need Breanna,
Breanna
so
Barbara.
Arneson's a real name, but she goes by Breanna.
Breanna Barbara. It's my first and middle name.
There it is. Yeah.
Arneson's the last. If you really want to look that up too.
We'll make it Breanna Barbara.
Yes.
Right? Okay. We'll keep it to your persona.
Yeah, I don't know. I just always went with that. Arneson's a good name too, but I guess the alliteration.
Fair enough.
BB.
And because I remember kind of speaking to you after, like, what were some of the things that you learned while you were recording, right? He kind of taught you how to perform a little bit, right? Because things you didn't think about.
Yeah, he helped me because I'm forever experimenting vocally, my style and what sounds best. Because I'll take so many risks that I need people to tell me to, like, get a little too excited, And he really just was an angel in the sense that helped me experiment, and he's such an expert too that he knew what was sounding good on the tape, and like because what's weird is that when you perform live and you can really sing your heart out, but sometimes that doesn't transfer read well on the recording. So that was new for me to get into my own voice, and I'm still experimenting, I'm still learning, but I think that record kind of put a stamp and was like, this is what I sing like. Yep.
And I remember you talking about, like, that when you sing, you have such an internal experience, and then he helped you how to portray what you were feeling. How to...
I forgot about that.
Yeah, how to, like, articulating and little things like that. Because you can kind of overlook it, especially in a live performance, because it's just kind of like chaos, and there's that natural kind of give back, and so you can give it. But when you're in a studio where you're just singing into a mic, you don't naturally have that, so
you really have to tell the story, just like in acting.
There it is.
Which Jordan's an actor too. I don't know if you guys know this yet, but musical theater days. Can we get a little?
Nothing. Do re mi. Okay, so then you make the album, and now is like the hustle time. So you start to push it. You have an album release. I remember in Greenpoint, right?
Berlin. In the city. We had a party.
A party. Yeah.
I think that was before I went though.
Okay. Yeah. And then so then you had the official, like, release concert in Berlin. Okay. Not in Berlin. It's a bar called Berlin in New York City.
On Avenue A.
Yeah.
But what amazed me is how long it took to actually put it out into the world. But I'm glad we waited, because once we did put it out and we pressed records, it was like, it was just the right time to do it for whatever reason.
What was the delay? Was it a choice, or what was
so I had a lot of people telling me everyone was so impressed by the record. They were like, you should try and have a label put this out. And I didn't know anything about labels. Fair. And so everyone was telling me to sit on it and wait. Push comes to shove, that's a year and a half later, and I'm like ready to release this. But a lot of people were like, no, you don't release it until you can really give it properly distribution.
And who was telling you that? Was it the manager, or who was
No, I didn't have any management at the time, but we also had some little bites from labels, so you don't know if they're going to come back or whatever. And I didn't care about any of that. I was like, I just want to share this with all my friends and family that helped me make this. And different people, but overall too, it costs money to, make the vinyl, which is what I wanted to do, and CDs and all that, but distribution is really the important thing when it comes to
getting it out there.
Yeah, because otherwise it's not gonna be anywhere other than
your Facebook page.
Yeah, exactly. So once I finally signed with it was No Roads, but they turned into Modern Sky. Their distribution is great, and that's when it kind of got sent out to all these different
Where did that partnership start? They just contacted you, or did you reach out to them? What was the...
It was after I met Mike, my previous boyfriend. We're going through all the boyfriends.
Yeah. It's a guy,
he worked for this company, and he kept... I remember he would play my song in the office every single day.
Just to...
Until one day...
It's like fishing.
The boss man, Michael Ajudas, he was like, what is that? And he's like, this is what I've been telling you to check out. And they went for it. And God bless them, because first records usually never make any money. Sure. And so they took a huge chance and risk on me, and it's been paying off.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Almost there.
Almost.
Ready for record number 2 to like really,
just to speed up the
record sophomore albums, like it's like makes or breaks you or whatever. That's what they say. But
you never make or break. It's
know.
all a journey.
We're all complete.
It's all a journey.
Exactly.
You're getting out the music that's inside you, right? That's the okay. So then they sign with you, and that kind of brings you down to the whole world. And I think what you kind of went through now is the business side of it, and you realize that you kind of the hustle of it, and you already gone through the hustle because you were so organic. But then now it became like, okay, booking tours and all that stuff. Yeah, it was a whirlwind, right?
Oof. I mean, this past year was the craziest year of my life. It was so much touring, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I realized how saturated the entire music world is, especially nowadays with the internet, and it's daunting, but in a beautiful light too, because what am I really doing? I'm traveling to all these cities and I'm meeting amazing people, and like I get to sing every night. Like
it's enjoying the journey. And that's what like if you're doing art, especially this day and age, to try to like make a living or something, it's you're doing it for the wrong reasons, basically. I mean, so it's just it's a balance of remembering why you're doing it and making sure you're not getting too many people in your head saying like, ooh, write a hit, or you need a label. It's like, no, none of that matters. And there's a lot of was it your first tour? There's so many bumps on the road.
My god.
Like that was. I'm sure you went through a lot of questioning. Why am I doing this?
Broke down. Bands couldn't come. Did it by myself. So I was driving 12 hours alone, trying not to lose my mind. And then at one point, I was going to a parking garage in Alabama, and the guy, I have a big Ecoline 150 Ford, so it's a very, very tall van, and the guy waved me in, and all of a sudden I hear, and I scraped and basically put a huge dent in my top of my van. It's still there. But at that point, I was just broke in tears. I'm like, what am I doing? Right. This is not, your first tour, no one's there. But it's all experience.
You went because it was, and just for context, it was up and down the East Coast, right?
Yeah.
It was to New Orleans, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So you went from New York to New Orleans.
I think we did Atlanta, Alabama, North Carolina. Yep, Asheville. We always stop in Asheville. Shout out to Lazy Diamond.
Lazy Diamond,
yeah.
And I remember you coming back and you just kind of just it was the craziest. Because
just every tour you learn more and more. And now that we've done Europe, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be doing that for a while just because
they support the arts there. I mean, that's the difference.
They have money. They'll put you up for a place to stay that night. They'll make you a family dinner meal. It's just so much nicer. No offense, America, but you need to get your...
You need to invest. I mean, they have endowment
together
for the arts. Yeah. That type of... Yeah.
And people really appreciate it there. Now you go to the bar and it's live music. Everyone's like, oh.
They're just drinking. It's like, shut up.
Talking over it. It's been there, seen it, done that. Yeah. So...
you slept out of the van, right? In your first,
I slept in the van. My van is very nice, so I will say. It's
hilarious.
Pink purple seats, and the back seat goes into a bed. It's got beautiful track lighting. And just background.
It's right outside. So Bree, when she first started working, because the thing about
many fun stories to tell.
The thing about the job is that you can really make some money that for me, it was when I started doing it, it was definitely I started making more money than I ever made in my life. And then same thing happened to Bree. Bree, within 2 months, buys 2 different cars. So she's
Jordan condoned the first one.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I had to show up to this sketchy backroom deal that it was probably a stolen car. Let's be honest. Yeah, probably. Yeah. And remember the
guy's hand was all green.
Yeah, the guy had some acid poisoning or something on his arm, and it was just, and he okay, here you go. Dealer. Yeah, something like that. And then she buys that one, which was great.
It was a rodeo. Rodeo.
It lasted for a few months, but not long. But then
the
she bought a van.
The bottom was rusted out. No one told me.
But then she bought a van as well. So within a few months of working with us, she now owned 2 cars, which was impressive.
Which no one buys cars in New York. I don't know who I think I am, but the van came in handy. It's gone on many tours.
It was the medium for her to express her music. Yes, so that's how it worked. So you did the first tour. You came back like, holy shit, what am I doing? Mm-hmm. And then Europe was next. Was that the?
No, I think there was, and then we did South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. Twice, I want to say. Yeah. I feel like I've done like several tours since that.
And is the management setting you up, or was it connections that, right? It was more.
Yep, it's just mainly because I had traveled so much at that point up and down the north and southeast. I made a lot of friends and different venues and bookers and stuff. So we would always just book our own tours, and then we went on tour with Mystery Lights, my boyfriend at the time's band, mm-hmm. and they have a great following. So yeah, we just kind of piggybacked on what great shows we could get in. Mm-hmm. And South by Southwest was always kind of like we'd tour around there for that festival. And then came Europe, which was this past summer, and that really blew me away. We only had a few shows, but they were so cool, so amazing. I had never been to Europe. I went on Mystery Lights tour, mm-hmm. but I had never sang there before, and just wow. I mean,
and was that your own tour this time, or were you still?
Yeah, that was my tour.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's where I met the festival we played in France. I met Tricky. Did you?
You taught me about it. He's English, right? He's like the English.
He's from Bristol. He started Massive Attack, and kind of did this whole trip hop movement. Yeah. Well, this is the funny story, because that's another tour I just went on. Is that that's where we met, and then we did a song together, and then he invited me on his most recent U.S. tour.
Has that song come out?
Yeah.
What is it called?
It's called When We Die. It's a rework of his song. Okay. Yeah, so... Yeah,
it's featuring Breanna Barbara. Look, check it out.
We sang it and produced it. It was fun.
And so then he set up this European tour that you're about to do?
His music is... He always has a female vocalist. So he usually brings... Sometimes he just does track on the backing track and he'll just perform. But on this, since he's promoting his new record and it's mostly female singer, he brings one girl. And so he invited me to do the U.S. leg with him, and I just got done with that. So yeah, it's been a crazy year. A lot of amazing things, a lot of learning lessons as always. And
okay, and then when is your next European tour? It's
Scandinavia in April, and then we're gonna try and do France, Spain, and Italy probably in June.
Cool.
I'm trying to live out in Europe this summer, so if you're out there...
Yeah, well, it's weird. When I posted my first one, there's weirdly a lot of European people that listen to this.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's strangely. So, if you're in Scandinavia,
we'll be posting the dates sooner or later.
BreannaBarbara.com?
Oh, no, that's not up yet. Not yet. Facebook, Instagram.
Yeah. Under construction, yeah.
Google. Just Google it.
Google. Okay, so... If you're talking to an artist that's thinking about coming up, like what would your advice be to them? Like, I know you're still on the journey and stuff, but like, is there something that you wish you would have known starting out? Or
I think especially as I'm starting to formulate ideas for this next record, and I'm kind of looking back at my whole journey musically, I think that just please know that what you are doing is enough, and everything you do and you've written, and I know we're all self-critics, but I guarantee it's a million times cooler and unique than you think it is. And it's those passages or songs or whatever it is that you do that you don't want to show anyone, that once you do, it's actually probably the best of your work. Mm-hmm. That's something that I hid my stuff for so long, and I was so scared to put out in the world. And now that you put it out, it's like, oh, I actually don't even care what you guys think. It just feels good to release that and just really, I look back at all the songs I wrote when I was like 18, 19, and I love those years now. I'm like, it's great that I'm moving forward, but I'll never write songs like that again. There's just such a purity. And I really... I'm trying to get back to that, but I think mainly just trust your gut. Like, get all the chatter out, whatever it is you can do. Do yoga, meditate, go to a museum that you like whatever it is that puts you in that place where you're in peace, then you can listen to what that voice inside is telling you, because that is going to guide you everywhere that you want to go. Mm-hmm. And I'm still learning how to do that, sure.
but like everything we've said, it's a journey.
Yeah.
Like it's such a gift when you can kind of objectively look back at yourself, and then you can kind of, and it, I'm always about living in the present, but you can really start learning the lessons, and you kind of see how your life kind of fits in like a puzzle, which I've said a million times when I've done this, that it's like, oh, that's why that happened. That's why I followed the guy from Louisiana. That's why I did that. And you start, at the time you would have never told someone, yeah, you should go with the homeless guy on the street, and you would never advise someone to do that, but you see why you did when you can kind of look back at objectively, and that is such a journey, and all the hurting and all the heartbreak was worth it, in the long run.
And something you mentioned to me last time we met up too, and conversely, is like it's also really cool to realize your patterns and kind of decide from there. Like I certainly have patterns, especially in love, and when I can look back and say, oh, okay, I did this several times, like now I can make a new decision, and that's gonna trajectory.
Yeah, and it's part of getting older too. I mean, that's why they always say like wisdom. It really takes some age, because be able to recognize those patterns, right. You got to go through them. Because
a million times.
You could easily isolate and say, "Oh, I just followed a man from Louisiana," but you kind of see how. But it's a gift, though. It's a gift that you've had. You've been so lucky in the relationships that you've created that have helped your journey along.
Yeah,
there's a reason that people come in your life.
They've all taught me so much.
Yeah. And look at it as a lesson, and not necessarily just like, oh, well, I'm heartbroken again, I'm trying to figure out where to move to, which is always
always a thing. Yeah. I'll say my greatest quality and probably craziest quality is the risk that I take. Like I don't know where it comes from, but I go for it. And I think that in life, what do you have to lose? And that was like a lesson I learned after my father passed away, is like, oh, well, our days are numbered, so I might as well. If I'm going to die tomorrow, what am I going to do today?
And I think that's kind of what we always related with each other, though, is that we always kind of, like, there's a great quote, like, if we knew it was constantly with us, there'd be no fear. And that's kind of how we always, like, me starting the real estate thing with like $12 in my pocket, it was nothing, and then I think that energy kind of attracted, you, and that's kind of
and
where
the whole everyone that works with us now still is like just such great energy.
And that's what we created.
Positive attitude, folks. All you nihilists out there, just give it up.
Just go for it. So I think we got everything. Anything else you want to share to the world as you
How's London?
London's good.
Jordan just moved to London.
Well, I'm back and forth.
You're back and forth.
It's been hard. Sylvia's in the other room. It's been, I had to go there for a month, and that's a lot. I mean,
that's a long time.
Because as you know, in traveling, like, it sounds great, like, oh, it's great, but traveling, it takes a lot out of you.
Spiritually, it's like, whoa. And then, not to mention the amount of time it takes to get adjusted when you go back. And if you're going back and forth, you're never really, like, adjusting.
Yeah, it's hard to get that kind of core of like stableness. That's tough. But it's great. I mean, it's the perfect time in my life to be doing it, and and like you said, you always want to try to be back in that place that created the great art, and that's kind of I think in the end why I did it is because I want to continue to take risks, and that when you stay in one place at a time, you can kind of get stale. But when you open, like I probably wouldn't have started this whole podcast if it wasn't I left. Yeah, exactly. And it's been amazing. Like that's just kind of documenting who I meet, and that's what breeds creativity, is being in that place of risk.
Well, I think you're right on to do a podcast, because I've always said you're great with people, and you have like a great energy where it brings out some amazing conversations.
You never know who you meet, and that's what really inspires. I met this. She's gonna be on here eventually. Me, Abiola. She's like a worldwide model.
Aww.
And I met her because of an Hasidic Jew. Like there was an Hasidic woman sitting next to her, and I had a seat that was next to the daughter, and I knew they wanted to sit, and so we switched seats.
Oh.
And then I was reading Eckhart Tolle, and she's like, "Oh, why are you reading that?" And then we just started talking, and then me and Sylvia went to a drink with her and stuff.
Aww.
So and I was like, okay, I should start documenting it, because crazy, you never know who you meet,
Yeah, you meet really cool people, and you always have a funny story about it.
Yeah, that's true.
You just attract it.
Yeah, that's it.
Keep on listening, folks.
Keep on listening. Stuff. More to come. But yeah, thank you so much, and this has been great. I think we got everything that we sought out. There we go.
Good to see you.
Thank you.